Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why, even after praying so much, your reality still doesn't seem to change? Why, even when you ask with faith, God's answers seem delayed? What if the problem isn't God? What if the problem isn't Goddard, but the way you're connecting with Him? What if I told you that the key to transforming absolutely everything in your life, your relationships, prosperity, health, purpose is already inside you, right now? I'm not talking about another manifestation, technique, or positive thinking trick. I'm talking about a spiritual truth that was taught decades ago by Neville Goddard, but only now are people beginning to truly understand. God is in your imagination, and your imagination is the true temple of creation. This video didn't show up by accident. If you clicked on it, it's because something inside you, maybe your intuition, maybe God Himself, is calling you to awaken. And today's message could be the turning point between the life you're currently living and the life you were born to manifest. Neville Goddard wasn't just a mystic. He was one of the greatest messengers of a spiritual teaching hidden for centuries. God and your imagination are one. That means every thought charged with emotion, every scene you visualize with faith, is being registered by the universe as a prayer, a creation, a new destiny set in motion. Have you noticed how the worst scenarios we imagine often end up happening? It's as if we're unconsciously creating what we fear the most. But the opposite is also true. When you imagine the good, with faith, when you feel with your whole being that it's already yours, the universe begins to move silently, piece by piece, until that becomes your new reality. This isn't just spirituality. This is a universal spiritual law. And this is where the hidden power lies, something almost no one ever told you. You don't need to wait for God to act from the outside. He's already acting within you, right now, through your imagination. But how do you turn this idea into practice? How do you go from theory to truly manifesting a life where you feel God's presence in everything, in your choices, your relationships, your abundance, your inner healing? And more importantly, how do you reprogram your imagination to become an extension of divine will? Most people imagine tragedy, failure, rejection, and then wonder why life is so hard. It's as if they're praying for the worst without realizing it. But when you learn to use your imagination the way Neville taught, with intention, purpose, and faith, you align yourself with a spiritual force that goes beyond logic, a creative force. In this video, you're going to understand exactly how to use your imagination as a direct channel to God. You'll discover that to imagine is not to fantasize. It's to move the invisible, to co-create with the divine, to enter a state of consciousness where the impossible begins to feel natural, where miracles become habits. But before I show you how to apply this in your life, I need to tell you something that maybe no one has told you yet. But first, I want to give you a special invitation. If this message has already started to awaken something inside you, a sign, a memory, a confirmation that this truth has always been there, but no one ever explained it this way, share it with me in the comments right down below. I manifest with God. These 3 words are not just a phrase. They are a declaration of faith, a commitment to your new reality. And when you write it, you affirm it. You activate it. You take your position and go ahead and leave a like, right now. This isn't just about engagement. The algorithm sees that this content matters and delivers it to more people who, like you, are also seeking this spiritual awakening. Every like is a light turned on in someone else's path. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe now and turn on the notification bell, because the next videos will go even deeper into this knowledge that can transform not just your mind, but your soul, your reality, and everything around you. This is just the beginning. Let's walk this journey together, because there is a truth that has been hidden for centuries, silenced by religion, distorted by doctrine, and forgotten by the masses. A truth so powerful that, if you truly understand and apply it, Your external reality will never be the same. And the one who revealed this in a direct and revolutionary way was Neville Goddard, a man who dared to say something many would consider blasphemy, but when you hear it with an open heart, it becomes one of the most liberating revelations of modern spirituality. God is your own imagination. This phrase might sound simple, maybe even too esoteric at first glance, but it carries a power that dismantles the image of a distant God, sitting on some cosmic throne, controlling everything like a stern judge. Neville declared with conviction, "Your imagination is God in action." And that changes absolutely everything. Pause for a moment and think with me. Where do you feel desire? Where do you experience emotion? Where do you visualize your future? Inside you. Always within. Imagination is not just a function of the mind. It is the sacred space where God moves, reveals himself, and communicates with you. When Neville said that everything you imagine with faith is already being formed in the unseen, he meant that the process of creation begins exactly there in the invisible realm of your consciousness. Most people were taught to pray, looking up to the sky, waiting for a miracle to come from outside, as if blessings were something separate, as if they had to be earned, begged for, pleaded. But Neville, grounded in universal spiritual principles, breaks this mindset and reminds us of a higher truth. You don't beg God, you manifest God, and you do that through your creative imagination. Shaped by real emotion and sustained by living faith, the outer world is just a reflection of what's happening in your inner world. In other words, everything you see, everything you experience, everything that repeats in your life, whether positive patterns or painful ones, are echoes of what you've been holding in your imagination. It might be hard to accept. Yes, the very things you fear the most, the thoughts you try to avoid, are also creating realities. That's why Neville insisted so strongly on imagining the desired end as if it were already real. To feel, with depth and certainty, that what you want is already yours. He wasn't talking about imagining for the sake of imagining, as if it were some random visualization exercise. He spoke of embodying the state of consciousness that matches what you want to live. For example, you want to live in abundance. Then imagine yourself already being prosperous, behaving, thinking, and feeling as a prosperous person, not out of greed, but because you understand that God expresses himself through your consciousness, and a consciousness of lack only produces more lack. This is the spiritual language of creation. It's not the language of effort, struggle, or external worthiness. It's the language of identifying with the desired state. If you want to live love, you must imagine yourself being love. It's not about having someone. It's about becoming someone whose energy attracts what's in resonance. You want healing. Then imagine yourself healthy, even if your body still shows symptoms. Because, according to Neville, the invisible always precedes the visible. The mind, moved by faith, is the womb where new realities form, before they're born into the physical realm. And this isn't just pretty spiritual theory. Look at your own life. How many times have you experienced exactly what you feared or anxiously anticipated? The human mind is a creative powerhouse. It never stops generating images, scenarios, conclusions. The problem is, few people realize that these images are planting seeds, and sooner or later, they bloom into reality, Neville said. Change your imagination, and you change your world. That's the core of his teaching. And when he says, world, he's not just talking about what's outside, but also about your inner world, your beliefs, your emotions, your deepest expectations. Because the external is always a consequence, never the cause. And perhaps the most powerful truth of all, this God imagination is not distant. He is acting right now, in this moment, inside your mind. And all he needs to perform miracles is your conscious permission to imagine with faith. And when you imagine with faith, with emotion, with certainty, it already begins to exist. You might not see it immediately, but it's already being born. The invisible is already in motion. And here's a key point Neville often repeated. It's not enough to imagine once and forget. The mind has been trained for years to imagine the worst. So it takes persistence, repetition, immersion in the state of the wish fulfilled. Just like a musician needs to train their ear to tune an instrument, you need to train your mind to enter and stay in the right state. And that's only possible when you realize that imagination is not fantasy. It's applied spirituality. It's prayer with direction. It's faith in motion. When you begin to imagine with this level of awareness, with reverence, with a deep feeling that you are co-creating with God, everything changes. Your posture changes, your perception changes, and most of all, your vibration changes. And vibration is what attracts. Vibration is what shapes. Vibration is what manifests. What Neville brought to the world was not a new religion. It was a reminder of something that had been within humanity for millennia, but that few dared to live. God dwells in you and acts through your imagination. He is waiting for you, waiting to express himself, waiting to create, waiting to transform. But this waiting is not passive. It's active, because the moment you decide to imagine consciously, with faith, with real emotion, in that very moment, God begins to act, invisibly, but powerfully. Because the invisible is always the first act of creation. And now that you're starting to understand this spiritual key, now that you're beginning to feel that this isn't just a theory, but a truth vibrating inside you, I want to invite you to affirmitoutloud. Comment below. God acts through my imagination. Write it and feel every word. This isn't just about engagement. It's an act of faith, a spiritual confirmation, a verbal code that activates your new state of consciousness. And if this message touched your soul, share it with someone who also needs to remember who they truly are. Because together, we are remembering what the world has forgotten. And yes, there's still so much more to come. Because the next revelation is what will show you how to apply all of this in practice and truly begin to manifest a new reality. Not just spiritually, but physically. And you'll understand that you don't need luck. You don't need effort. You just need to awaken the Creator that lives within you. And He is more alive than ever. And maybe now, you're starting to realize why so many of your prayers went unanswered. Not because God ignored you. Not because you lacked faith, but because, unconsciously, you were searching outside for something that can only be born within. And this is where the deepest point of awakening lies. Most people have spent their entire lives believing that God lives in the sky, somewhere far away, waiting for you to kneel, beg, plead, and maybe, if it's His will, He'll answer. But that's not spirituality. That's conditioning. And this spiritual conditioning is what's caused so many people to walk through life carrying a heaviness, an emptiness, a deep feeling of abandonment. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever cried in silence, wondering why nothing seems to work? Why everything feels stuck? Why doors don't open even when you're trying to do everything right? Have you ever felt rejected by life? Have you ever felt like God wasn't listening? If you've ever been through that, and I know many people here have, then you know what it feels like to be broken inside. You know what it's like to pray with tears in your eyes, with your heart tight in your chest, and still wake up the next day with the same pain, the same problem. It's the same feeling of being alone. But I want you to listen to me carefully. Now, you were never alone. The problem was never a lack of faith. The problem was where you were placing that faith. Your faith was being projected outward, waiting for something external to save you, when everything you needed was inside you all along. God was never far. He was always whispering in your mind, waiting for you to listen. And the channel of that communication is your imagination. That is the secret temple where prayer becomes manifestation. It's not about repeating pretty words or memorized phrases. It's about feeling, imagining, visualizing with intensity that which you desire to bring into the world. But here's something no one may have told you. Many times, what you imagine most often is exactly what hurts you the most. Yes, because the human mind has been programmed to expect the worst. Since childhood, we've been taught to fear, to doubt, to prepare for pain. And that created an invisible cycle of self-sabotage. You pray for peace, but imagine conflict. You pray for love, but imagine rejection. You pray for abundance, but imagine lack, and the universe, which responds to the vibration of your imagination, simply reflects what you're vibrating. That's why so many people feel frustrated. That's why so many feel disconnected from God, because they're caught in an internal war between what they say with words and what they feel in silence. And it's in the feeling that the real prayer happens. It's in the invisible space of your soul that creation begins. Neville said, "You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are." And what you are is shaped by what you imagine, with faith, with emotion, with persistence. Think about how many times you've tried to change your life with sheer effort, working harder, pushing through, but without changing your imagination. How many times did you try to improve your relationships, your finances, your health, but deep down still believed the same old limiting thoughts? There's your answer. It's not enough to act in the physical. If your mind is still programmed for failure, you can't chase what you want if you're still imagining the opposite. And this is the moment where you need to pause and reflect. What have you been feeding in your imagination? What are the scenes, the stories, the patterns you repeat every single day, even without realizing it? Are you imagining a future full of blessings or full of fear? Do you see yourself as someone connected to God, co-creating miracles, or someone lost, waiting for a salvation that never seems to come? This reflection hurts because it forces you to take responsibility for what you're creating. But this pain is liberating because it hands you the key. It shows you that you hold the power, that you no longer need to depend on luck or chance or outside intervention. You can start changing now. Today, the moment you choose to imagine the good with the same intensity you use to imagine chaos. And here's a detail that could completely transform your perception. When you imagine with faith, you're not just daydreaming. You're aligning yourself with the will of God, because His will is that you manifest the kingdom of heaven. Here and now, not in the future, not after death, but in this reality. The heaven you seek is a state of consciousness. And you enter that state when you see yourself as a child of God, as a creator, as a divine being who came into this world to express light, love, and abundance. This is the new spirituality. It's not religion. It's not dogma. It's consciousness. It's the remembrance that the sacred already lives inside you. And everything begins with how you imagine yourself. If you imagine yourself small, limited, broken, that will be your reality. But if you imagine yourself strong, connected, guided by something greater, that reality will also come. This isn't magic, it's law. It's vibration. It's the spiritual mechanics of the universe, and you're a part of it, whether you realize it or not. 'Cause you are creating all the time with your thoughts, your feelings, and most of all, with your inner images. So now I want to offer you an exercise. Close your eyes for a few seconds. Take a deep breath and imagine a scene that represents the life you want to live. Not just see this scene, feel it as if it's already happening. Allow yourself to dive into this new state and repeat mentally. This is mine. Now, I accept it. I allow it. I am. This simple practice, when done with faith and consistency, can open doors you never imagined. And if all of this made sense to you, I invite you to leave a comment below with the phrase, "My imagination connects me with God." This isn't just a comment. It's a reminder, a commitment, a declaration to the universe. And if you want to share how this teaching has already started to shift your perspective, tell your story. Let's create a space where others can also awaken. Your comment might be the spark that ignites someone else's faith. And don't forget to like this video, not just because it helps the channel, but because it tells the algorithm that this kind of message needs to reach more people. And if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe now, because in the next few minutes, we're going even deeper into this teaching, and you'll learn how to align your imagination with the exact frequency of what you want to manifest. Because what comes next? We'll show you the most powerful step of all. Because this is exactly the point where everything starts to take shape in the unseen. From this moment on, you'll understand how to apply this knowledge, not as a pretty concept that gets stuck in words, but as a living spiritual practice that changes how you think, feel, and move in the world. Neville Goddard said, "Imagination is prayer." And what he meant goes far beyond simply closing your eyes and daydreaming. He was speaking of a type of imagination charged with faith, with certainty, with real emotion. An imagination that vibrates so strongly within you that it becomes impossible not to manifest. The first step to applying this in your life is simple, but it requires awareness. You must learn to imagine the end. And what does that mean? It means you don't imagine the process, the obstacles, or the steps. You imagine the end as if it were already happening right now. If you want a relationship, imagine yourself loved, living with someone, feeling complete. If you want prosperity, see yourself paying your bills with ease, living in abundance, helping others. If you want healing, see yourself healthy, energized, smiling from your heart. It's that final state, not the path, that must be at the center of your later. Imagination, because the process is the universe's responsibility. Your role is to keep your vibration aligned with the destination you've chosen. And the clearer and more consistent your imagined state is, the faster the universe aligns to deliver it. But just visualizing isn't enough. You must feel it as if it were already real. That's what activates the spiritual code of manifestation. It's not enough to create cold, distant mental images. True faith is born in the body. You need to embody the feeling that what you're imagining is already happening. This requires deep, emotional involvement. You have to smile from the heart, feel goosebumps, feel the warmth of fulfillment. Because that's what the universe understands. It doesn't respond to what you want, it responds to what you feel is real. And this is the most sensitive point of Neville's entire teaching. Imagination sustained by faith creates realities. This is not a metaphor. It's a spiritual law. And like all laws, it works for everyone, regardless of religion, age, belief, or culture. The difference lies in who applies this law consciously and who lives trapped in unconscious cycles of fear, doubt, and scarcity. The practice Neville recommended the most was nighttime imagination. Just before sleep, in that state between wakefulness and sleep. When the conscious mind relaxes and the subconscious opens, he suggested choosing a short, symbolic, powerful scene that represents the final state of what you desire, and then replay that scene repeatedly with all your senses. Feel it, see it, hear it, touch it, as if you were really there. For example, if you desire reconciliation, imagine a hug, a light conversation, laughter. If you desire prosperity, imagine someone saying, "Congratulations, you did it." And feel the emotional impact. If you desire healing, imagine yourself running, dancing, looking in the mirror with vitality. This symbolic repetition creates an impression on the subconscious. And the subconscious is the soil where all seeds grow. But here comes the secret that few people apply. You must repeat with faith until it becomes part of your consciousness. It's not a one-time request. It's reprogramming. It's like immersing your mind day after day into this new image until it cements, becomes more real to you than your current reality. And when that happens, the outer world begins to shape itself according to your new inner belief. Faith, in this context, is not about waiting. It's about assuming. It's about accepting that it already is, that it's already done. That in the invisible, everything has already been created, and now you are simply allowing it to come into your life. This is the difference between a desperate prayer and a conscious one. The desperate prayer begs, doubts, waits. The conscious one feels, vibrates, and gives thanks. Now imagine the impact this can have on your life if you apply it with consistency. How many emotional blocks could you dissolve just by changing the images you hold in your mind? How many opportunities could you attract by shifting your vibration? How many healings could occur the moment you stop reinforcing disease with thoughts of fear and start feeding health with images of well-being? And I know that right now, your rational mind might be resisting. It might be saying, this is just fantasy, that real life is hard, that you can't live on imagination. But let me remind you of something powerful. The life you're living right now was also born from a past imagination. At some point, you imagined this job, this relationship, this challenge. And with or without awareness, it manifested now. The difference is, you are choosing to imagine with intention, with consciousness, with faith, and that's where your power lies. You are not a passive spectator. You are a creator. And the raw material of your creation is the inner image you sustain every day. So start today. Choose an image. Create a scene. Live this scene every night before you go to sleep. Wake up thanking God that it has already happened. And pay attention to the signs. They will come. Because when you feel something as true, the universe responds. Always. Now I want to invite you to do something powerful. If this message touched you, if you felt this truth vibrate in your chest, leave a comment below saying, "My imagination is the key to my reality." This phrase is more than just a comment. It's a code, a reminder, a spiritual trigger. And if you want to go even deeper into this process, share in the comments what scene you're going to imagine from now on. What is the final outcome you choose to live? Love, prosperity, healing, peace. You can write just one word or a sentence like, I see myself living in abundance. And don't forget to like this video right now. Not just because it helps the channel, but because it tells the algorithm that this kind of message needs to reach more people. People who, just like you, are ready to awaken. If you're not subscribed yet, subscribe now and turn on the bell. Because what comes next will show you how to hold this new imagination steady, even in the face of real-world challenges. And how to protect your faith so that nothing and no one can take you off your new path, the path of conscious manifestation. If you've made it this far, it's because this message spoke directly to your soul. And that's no coincidence. Ordinary. People stop halfway, but those who stay until the end are ready for a new level of consciousness. And I feel that you are so. Here's what you need to do now. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Here, we'll keep diving deeper into these teachings, revealing truths that will open your spiritual eyes and transform the way you see life. And if this video truly touched you, leave your like right now. It helps YouTube understand that. This content must reach more people who are also seeking a deeper connection with God, with spirituality, and with their true purpose. And of course, comment below. I am a co-creator with God. Write this as a commitment, as a declaration. This phrase seals everything you've learned today, and it shows that you're ready to live consciously, with faith, with intention. And now, don't stop here. The next video is already waiting for you on the screen. It will expand your mind even further and show you how to maintain this elevated frequency even when reality tries to pull you back. Click and continue with me. Your journey is just beginning.